It's going. Okay, welcome in to Thomas Talks on Thursday. My name is Thomas Minert. I'm with Remax Precision. This is a live stream I do weekly to talk about real estate, talk about what's going on in the Des Moines market, and just to get people more informed in general. And today with me, I have someone I have known for a very, very long time, one of my best friends, and he is one of my go to flooring guys. Landon, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, as Thomas said, best friends. For anyone listening, best friends. Uh, but my name's Landon. I own G&L Flooring located in Ankeny, Iowa. As Thomas said, we've known each other for a very long time, graduated together, stayed in close contact ever since. And Thomas is my go-to realtor. Sold and bought a house with that guy. Number one in the biz, if you ask me. But as far as a little bit by myself, born and raised in Des Moines, lived in Ankeny for the past almost 13 years. So, yeah, obviously super exciting life. I have a ton of not exciting tales to tell you. So,
Well, let's talk about what. How long have you been in flooring, and then what made you finally decide to start your own flooring company?
I shout out Zach Miller. Obviously big fan of the show here. Zach got me started. Him and his father got me started when we were in high school. We do some random, stuff here and there, flooring wise for him in the summers. And then they actually got me my first flooring job in 2013. So it's been a little over 13 years now. I've been in the flooring industry pretty much the whole time. The real, I guess, jump off to starting G&L Flooring, because we do have two locations. There's one in Omaha, Nebraska as well that I share with my business partner, Jeff. We have worked in the flooring industry for about the same amount of time. We've pretty much been with each other at the couple of different companies we've worked for. And, we essentially get to see how the sausage is made when you work, in the store or on the installation side like we have. And, not saying we're trying to reinvent the wheel, but we just think that we can do better than what people have the options of right now. And we can get into it a little bit more when we kind of talk about what separates G&L from the rest of the pack. But yeah, that's pretty much why we started it. We have talked about it for a long time. We finally took the leap, and so far so good.
Yeah, so Landon, for those of you that didn't catch on to his answer there, he's kind of sort of done it all in the flooring industry. He has worked with install, he's worked with selling flooring, he's worked with managing warehouses at flooring stores. So every single part of it, he's seen all your different types of hard surface floorings throughout his whole career. And yeah, let's talk about it. What makes GNL different? I kind of know the story about why this made a ton of sense for you to start this store, because it's not like you're becoming just another flooring store in the market. You guys have quite a good value proposition.
Yeah. So, what really separates us from the pack is when you go with any sort of flooring, you really have two options. You can either go to a big box store, which price wise, you will get a better price, but the service just really isn't there. And that's that's no shade being thrown at your Menards, your Lowe's, your Home Depots. But I think we've all been in that situation where, trying to find help in those stores is a little bit difficult, especially since all of these departments run together. You're in the flooring department trying to talk to somebody about flooring, and the guy's like, "Oh, sorry, man, I work in electrical. My bad. I don't know anything about this." Right. But the pricing is enticing. So the other caveat to that is you go to we'll say like a specialty retailer, and I'm not going to call those ones out, but I think we all know, who I'm talking about with the large showrooms and all the fancy stuff. And their price point is quite a bit higher, but you will get good service there. And a lot of those guys, I know them personally, and they offer a good service. But the problem is you're paying a premium for that service. So what we tried to do here at GNL is we tried to meet in the middle. So, our showrooms still look very nice. They're not overly extravagant, which nobody's wanting to spend 2 to 3 hours in a flooring store on a Saturday anyway. And we're able to provide a great price and good knowledge. And of course, we think exceptional service.
Cool. You made this up for me, so let's go dive into this as far as what we're talking about for prices too. Um,
Yeah.
I
Yep.
mean,
So, and just so everyone knows too, because I mean, some of these prices, and even when I pulled this is all through Chat GPT. I did check all the sources. They did check all of the big box stores, so I made sure that those were in there. So what I actually did this morning is I inputted, what my price point is versus the average for the Des Moines market. Now, some of these numbers, especially in like the 4 and 5 millimeter, which is more of your entry level LVPs, you'll notice those are a little bit higher. I think those might be a little inflated, maybe due to some specialty store stuff. But I think like the 6.5 and 8 millimeter, I think that's pretty close to, what you will find. So, kind of going back to it, when you get to those big box stores, those prices are going to be quite a bit lower than even what you see on the right, but you're going to have an issue with that service piece of it. As far as like the specialty retailers, in my personal opinion, a lot of times when you are starting to spend, like if you spend over $5 a square foot on a luxury vinyl plank, I think at that point you're spending more on overhead and commissions than you are on actual material. I have worked for multiple stores. I have worked with multiple stores. I understand costs of what people are getting these materials for. So when you're seeing that $6 to $7 a square foot, and it could be a very good quality product, but I think at that point, you're paying more for that 10,000 square foot showroom and more for that salesman's commission and more for the beer and wine that you're walking around with and talking with. Whereas here, we just try to make it as simple as possible. Me and my partner, we spent so much time with vendors of all of the products that we sell to make sure that we can get, number one, we want to make sure we have a good quality product. That was the number one thing that we wanted. Number two was figuring out how could we get that high quality product for a good price that then we can pass along to the consumer. So a lot of the things that we do, whether it is the LVP, the carpet, the cabinets, all of those options, we're working directly with the manufacturer for the most part, rather than having a bunch of those middlemen in between. So when we're getting those shipments in, it's coming directly from the people that are typically making it or getting those containers in instead of having to pay, a few other people that handle that material.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, the biggest thing that's always stood out every time I go to your store is if you're looking for a high quality LVP, there really is no place that can beat the prices that you have for the 6.5 and the 8 millimeter. Um, like you said, the 4 and 5 is probably a little inflated. Like if you were to go to a certain big box store at the right day, they might be able to match or beat the prices that you have. So like those are kind of close, but if you're looking to put some nice stuff in your house, I definitely think visiting Landon at GNL is a really, really good idea. So,
Yeah. And to piggyback off that too, I mean, you are correct. So like the 4.5 and 5 millimeter options are typically the most competitive. So you'll notice even at the big box stores, like on average, if we compare apples to apples and we don't talk about discontinued product or closeouts, apples to apples, I'm usually right around 10 to 15% cheaper than the big box stores on like the 4.5 and 5 millimeter. Where I think I really separate myself is that 6.5 millimeter and that 8 millimeter. Those are going to come in those wider plank options. But just to give you an idea, because I do comparison shopping all the time, like an 8 millimeter, 28 mil wear layer, rigid core, pad attached, like even going to those big box stores, you're probably going to spend close to four, if not 450 a square foot for that material.
yeah,
And part of that too is like, it's just me. I have my installation crews that are phenomenal and do, all the installation part for me. But like, I'm the guy that's there when you walk into the store, I deliver the flooring, I'm doing the measures. Like I am the only guy that needs to be paid. And sometimes, that check doesn't look as good as it should, but at the end of the day, it's like that is why I'm able to also not have to mark things up as much as some of these other locations that have the multiple employees and trucks and stuff like that they have to pay for.
Do you want to talk about installation too, like how you picked your installers and like how quality they are as well too? Because I feel like that's something to think about too. If you're going to your Home Depots and the Lowe's, and it might kind of sound like we're picking on them, but they kind of just get whatever installer they can find. Do you want to talk about your process that you go for that?
Uh, yeah, I mean, here's the deal. I will be as transparent as possible. Like when it comes to the big box stores, like I I don't want to crap on them because I go there all the time, but it's one of those ones I'm not as scared to talk about big box stores as I am the more local, specialty retailers, right? Because I know a lot of those guys personally, and I don't need to get into that mess. Um, but so like for my installers, like I only have one installer that does all of my hard surface material, and he also does my cabinets. So Cliff, shout out American Flooring. Um, the I When I started GNL Flooring, I actually was not even going to offer installation. It was just going to be, you get your materials, you have your own installer, or you're a DIY, and that was going to be the plan because I've been in the installation industry for a very very long time, and there are a lot of great installers out there. Uh, but the tough part about that is, and they deserve every dollar, is when you get to a super high quality installer, they want to be paid that premium, and they have the experience, and I think for the least amount of headache, they deserve what they're getting paid. But then if you're sitting there wanting to be competitive and make money, that's when you start making some questionable installer choices. And I have just been down that road so many times that I didn't want to mess with it. So luckily enough, I had worked with Cliff at my previous job. I let him know what I was doing, and he was 100% on board. And Cliff is phenomenal, but he knew, he's like, I know what you're capable of, and give me a little bit better rates than I'm making right now, and let's make this thing happen. And I've been super fortunate to have him. He has done flooring for, gosh, probably 20 years now. His dad was a union cabinet installer, so like that's why he also does my cabinets. He usually brings his dad out on the job with him. They get the cabinets knocked out. So that's why he does all of those options for me. But you are right. It is so critical to have an installer that knows what they're doing, because even here, like there's so many times I have people reaching out to me for repairs, and that just starts to become a very very messy situation, especially with of course, a customer doesn't want you to tear their whole floor up and repair it right. They just want to repair the one spot that has an issue. But then you go out there and notice that there's a lot more issues going on than what's just currently presenting itself. Um, so
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to break the bank, but it is something to
LVP can kind of turn into a Jenga tower of sorts that, like, once one part is messed up, it all just needs to be fixed.
right. Right. Well, in a lot of things too. And I make a lot of videos that talk about, just trying to inform consumers too. But, something I always, not to beat a dead horse, but I always talk about floor preparation. If you have an installer that you're talking to and you ask anything about floor prep, and it kind of seems like they don't know a lot about it or don't do it a lot, that would kind of be your first red flag, because especially with the LVP, I personally think LVP is a phenomenal product. I have it in my own house, but the real issue with the LVP is it's a little thinner. The locking joints aren't as thick as like some of your laminates and engineered lock together systems. So you have to make sure that that floor is decently flat, because if you have a lot of imperfections and you walk on it, especially in those high traffic areas, you're going to start noticing some separations, usually at those butt seams.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, we'll go on to the next topic, but I did just want to mention, like, if you're to the point where you're shopping for new hard surface flooring like this and you're not going to do it yourself, you're not going to learn how to do it yourself, I would encourage you more so to make sure you have someone installing it that knows what they're doing than spend the extra money going to whatever the next like thing is, cuz improperly installed flooring, no matter how nice it is going to look bad. Like in general. So just that's my one encouragement here. Let's go to what we have planned next. Nope, wrong thing. There we go.
All right.
Just so people don't, so in case people don't know, you want to talk about LVP versus engineered hardwood versus solid hardwood?
Yep, absolutely. So, really what these are. So, just to kind of give some numbers, LVP right now is dominating the hard surface market. LVP right now is right around about 60% of all the hard surface that is being purchased and installed right now. And overall, including carpet, it almost dominates a third of the market when it comes to any flooring being installed. What the LVP is actually comprised of, so it is a polyurethane finish on top, which pretty much all your pre-finished floors have that polyurethane finish with aluminum oxide baked into it to make it stronger. It's got a digital printed picture on there, and then the core of it can either be what they call an SPC, a stone polymer composite or rigid core, or it could be a WPC, a wood plastic composite core. And then more times than not now, they actually have the padding already pre-attached on the back. Now, the way that they are able to put this finish on this synthetic product, it actually makes it a lot more scratch and wear resistant. Obviously, the plank itself is going to be 100% waterproof. So if you do have any spills or pets or things like that, it's going to be able to withstand some water sitting on there for an extended period of time if you miss it. And it just makes it a little bit simpler to clean. So that is probably why, and the price point, that's probably why the LVP has been dominating. It's just one of those hassle-free floorings that is easy to take care of. Now hopping into the engineered and the hardwood. So really, the engineered has a real wood veneer on top. So when the engineered is installed, the idea behind it is going to look like a real hardwood, but what really separates it is the core of it. So typically, if you were looking at a nail down or glue down style installation, you're going to have a plywood core to your engineered hardwood. What that does is the reason for the plywood core, or sometimes it's an MDF core if it's a click together, it is just going to be less likely to expand and contract. So especially here in the Midwest, we have brutally dry and cold winters. We have super hot and humid summers like we're dealing with right now. And all wood expands and contracts over time. So the idea behind the engineered is you're going to get that real wood look and feel, but it's not going to have as much movement when it comes to the changes in the seasons. Now, that is not saying that it still does not move, because it does. So with the engineered and the hardwood, both of those, you still want to make sure that you are maintaining the humidity in your house, which I'm not going to get into that because that could be another 30-minute conversation. But the engineered real wood veneer on top, and then it's got a plywood core. Your solid hardwood is the most simple. It is just a solid, usually 3/4 inch thick piece of wood. Now, the solid hardwood, the bright side about solid hardwood is you can sand and finish it multiple times. The downside about the solid hardwood is it's going to expand and contract the most. So what is super popular right now is everyone is going wide plank, right? So back in the day when you had your, 2 1/4, even 3 1/4 hardwood, there were so many fasteners that hold that material down. It just really didn't have areas to expand and contract in. When you start getting into your 5-inch or wider, that's where I would personally say, if you're going to go with the real wood look and feel, go with the engineered if you're going to go 5 inches or wider, because you're not going to have to worry as much about those changes in humidity. One really big call out when it comes to engineered and solid hardwood, though, is when we talk about durability, that is going to be very dependent on that species of wood that's on top. So if you get into a softer material like a birch, you're going to get a lot of dings and dents and probably some deep scratches in there. If you start going into some harder materials, like there's a lot of white oak options now, hickory options, if you can get into some Brazilian options, like some exotic woods, those are going to be a lot harder wood species that are going to ding and dent a lot less than, your softer domestics.
What type of people are still looking for engineered hardwood or solid hardwood? Like, what type of customer is that? Why are they still going with that option?
Um, you know, I don't want to say the older generation is, but I would say usually the people that are looking at hardwood tend to be, on their second or third house, usually a higher value house. And the older generation, it's kind of, I don't want to say nostalgia, but it's just, that is what they grew up with and that is what they want. Now, when I started doing flooring, LVP was not a thing. You had laminate, you had engineered, you had hardwood. Um, so I personally love the look of hardwood. I love the look of engineered because it is a real wood. There's no two planks that are going to look the same. So as far as natural beauty and really having that variation in the floor, you will get that 100% with the wood floor and engineered floor. So personally, in my mind, like I don't think anything looks better than a real wood floor. But the downside of it and the reality of it is, we all have, whether it's pets or kids or high traffic, like whatever that may be, that's something we worry about. And that's why the LVP has really been, so dominant, is because it is a very scratch and wear resistant product. Now, the downside of an LVP versus like an engineered and a hardwood, though, is you really don't have that fixability or sandability to it. So let's say you do somehow drop a big butcher knife into it or something super heavy and damage a plank. Essentially, the best move for that is going to be replacing that plank.
Yeah. And then at that point, you're trying, well, I'm assuming a majority of times, any extra you guys are leaving with the clients.
Oh yeah, yep. So, and I always recommend, like, no matter what it is, no matter what wood product or vinyl or laminate, whatever you get, I would always hold on to a box or two extra because you just never know when something's going to happen and you need to replace that plank.
Yeah.
I guess one last call out too. So with the engineered, with it being a real wood veneer on top, one thing that's crucial as well is the thickness of that veneer. Because just like anything, there's gonna be different qualities, right? There's gonna be your good, your better, and your best. When you get into those higher quality engineereds, that's where you're gonna start having that thicker real wood veneer. So you have more of that fixability and refinishability.
Yeah.
Um,
I was just going to mention that the engineered hardwood, you can't fix and refinish that as much as you would be able to a solid hardwood, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So in the veneers, they typically talk about millimeters. So I would say if you got into a 3 millimeters close, but I'd say a 3 millimeter or above, you could at least get some sort of sand and finish out of it, depending on how beat up that floor is.
Okay.
But also, real quick, just talk about like a price point. So, like the LVP, I mean, for decent quality stuff, you're probably going to be in like I guess for my store, you're going to be $2 to $3 a square foot. In general, you'll probably be, 2 to 450 or 5 is going to be for a good quality LVP. If you're looking at a good quality engineered, you're probably going to be in like the $6 to $9 per square foot range is what my stuff is at for like that thicker veneer, a little bit higher quality stuff. And then with the solid hardwood nowadays, I mean, that is decently expensive. You're probably going to be looking double digits per square foot if you're getting into a good quality hardwood.
Yeah. Uh, just so I can add in a few of my notes here from what I've seen, like walking through houses and stuff like that. LVP is pretty much getting used by every builder right now. The only time you still see someone using real hardwood or engineered hardwood is if it's like in a extremely high luxury price point. Even then, you might not see it. Like the home show's coming up, and I'll be kind of interested to see how many of them are even still using hardwood. People that I've talked to about it that still want to do it, a lot of them, and Landon didn't mention this, but it might be kind of just what he was talking about with the aesthetics. It does feel different. Even if you have like the nicest LVP floor in the world, you can tell you're walking on LVP versus when you're walking on a real hardwood floor. And some people still kind of like that. Like it feels like you're walking on something more luxurious. I couldn't care less, but that is something people mention. Um, and then with the LVP, one thing I will mention because I have, and you've probably seen someone make this mistake too. It is completely waterproof, which is nice, but just be aware if you're putting it in a basement, it is going to lock moisture below it.
Yeah.
and
And another good call out, because I mean we had this issue just this last month. If you do have a basement flood with an LVP, that does not mean that you can leave it down and it's good. You still will want to take it up. You will still want to, dry everything out, make sure no mold or mildew is going to get, trapped in there. But the nice thing about the LVP is you can reuse the material. Obviously, unless you break it, taking it out. But the nice thing about the LVP, it is reusable. Whereas, obviously, if you did carpet or something like that in the basement, it gets wet, it's pretty much toast.
Yeah. Yeah, unless you could dry carpet like extremely quickly,
Yep.
people are probably just going to recommend you tear it all out. And even if you were to put any of those other hardwood options in a basement too, that's more than like it depends on how long it's been wet. It's more than likely going to be ruined too. So
Yeah. So the basement you can do engineered hardwood. So you can either do like the lock together style engineered, or you could do a glue down style engineered, which we've done a few of those too. I will say typically if you're going to get water, especially a substantial amount on it, that floor is going to be toast.
yeah, and no one plans on getting water in your basement, but it is just something to keep in mind. Like if you're putting it in a house that has never had the basement finished or has had a history of water in the basement, be very cognizant in monitoring your house and making sure. Because even if moisture is slowly leaking in, you might not even notice that there's just mold building up under your LVP. So it's just something to be really, really on top of because by looking at it, unless you're tracking humidity, you will not be able to tell because it's going to be very hard for water to get underneath that LVP. It's going to go somewhere. It's more than likely just going to sit right below that, and it can turn into kind of a nasty problem. But so we kind of talked about this a little bit already, but maybe just add another little pizzazz on it. Why do you think LVP has grown in popularity so much? Is it just a price thing? I mean, you kind of walked through the differences of what people are looking at price wise.
I think price has a huge part of it. I think simplicity is even bigger. Is just how scratch and wear resistant it is. Which I mean, LVP when it first came out, I mean, I'll be the first to tell you it was junk. Like it
Oh
was
yeah,
for me, it was like, oh, you might as well just do the laminate or whatever. Like LVP just wasn't a great quality product at first, but with the advances in technology and what they do now, like the stuff, it is very, very solid material. Um, but yeah, I mean, price point, it's cheap to make. Um, so price point's obviously the big one, especially if you're doing a house that's a first time home buyer house, or even like you said, the problem is there's even like houses that are close to $1 million still doing LVP. But I think more than anything, it's durability and ease of taking care of it. So most people have those pets or kids that are going to trash the house or spill something or have an accident that, that you don't have to worry about that with the LVP like you do those other materials.
yeah, and I think I lost my train of thought, but I do think it looks so much nicer than other things you'd be comparing it to price point wise too. I mean, because if you're looking for, you're gonna put new flooring down, and it's a room that can honestly be, it could be carpet, it could be hardwood, it could be whatever. Like the price point of it versus the look of it, it just ends up being people's best option. Because you mentioned laminate, it's such an upgrade looks wise over laminate.
Yeah.
So
It really is. And then even like let's say a carpet versus LVP debate, like you can get some cheap carpet. You really can. But if you're talking like a decently high end carpet versus an LVP, like even with installation, like you're pretty apples to apples there. So that also could be it too, is that like price point wise, if you're looking at a nice carpet versus the LVP, you're going to be at the same price point. And in my opinion and most people's opinion, the LVP just looks better.
yeah, yeah. Let's talk about, we kind of talked about it a little bit with your graphic comparing prices, but like what do you get when you start going up in tiers of quality of LVP, and then talk about what that looks like when we're talking about going up in tiers.
Sure. Yeah, and I've actually made a couple videos of this that you guys can see on our Facebook page for GNL Flooring. But the couple of big things that you're going to get. So when you start moving up in those price points for the LVP, usually you're going to get a thicker product. So the thicker it is, the heavier it is, the better it sounds when you walk on it. Also, that locking mechanism is typically that whole thickness of the LVP. So you're going to have a deeper lock when you lock those together. It's going to hold together better. So that's a huge upgrade, as well as just even the wear layer on there. So when you go for like in GNL's instance, you go with a $1.89 a square foot, 4.5 millimeter, 12 mil wear layer. you're going to spend not even twice as much. You're going to be at 309. You're going to get a 8 millimeter 28 mil wear layer. So you're going to have a product that's almost twice as thick and has over 2 times as much finish on it. That's going to make it more scratch and wear resistant. I do not carry like the corkback stuff. So everything I have is the IXPE, like the black padding on the back. But you can even go into some upgrades for some different manufacturers that they can even have the cork backing on there. That's a little bit better for thermal insulation as well. But the two main things you're going to get when you start moving up is that thickness and that wear layer typically seem to be going up as well.
So just better feel, more durability, and everything like that.
Yep. Better feel, more durability, more wear and tear resistancy.
And then I don't know the lingo. Talk about those two cores that LVP typically come in. Which one do you carry, and then what's actually the difference between those two cores?
Oh, yeah. So the SPC, or the rigid core, SPC stands for stone polymer or stone plastic composite, however you want to phrase it. That is going to be the more durable option. So as far as, setting heavy furniture on top of it, dropping stuff on it, just overall density, the rigid core is going to be better for performance. And you'll notice that more times than not, most people offer the rigid or SPC core. That is by far dominating the market when it comes to what's being offered out there. WPC, or wood plastic composite, is supposed to be designed to be more comfortable and have a little bit better thermal insulation. So the wood plastic composite is actually almost like a foam. So it has these little like air bubbles in it. It's supposed to, like I said, it's supposed to be a little bit more comfortable walking on it, a little more quiet, and then provide a little bit more of that thermal insulation. That I carry only SPC core. I'm pretty, I guess, biased on that too. I think most people are going to want to choose that performance over comfort, because the downside of the WPC core is it is a lot easier to break. It is a lot easier to, ding and dent. So if you're, most people do the WPC core in the basement because they think about concrete and they think about it being cold. But
Yeah.
if you're putting like a heavy pool table down there or anything like that, like it has the capability of getting dimples or dents into it just because that core is not very strong.
Yeah.
Uh, Also, WPC core, more times than not, is more expensive than the SPC core when we talk apples to apples, when we're talking about thickness and wear layer.
Okay. Do you want to criticize my sister really quick? She
No.
commented saying
Oh, no, no. Better question. Which one?
Maggie. Maggie
No.
commented saying they went with LVP just because of dog and kids, which we just talked about. But she also put white carpet in her kid's bedroom, so she's not a person you should take advice from.
So I'm going to tell you right now, I have carpet in my bedrooms, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to change that. Um, I sell carpet as well. I sell a ton of carpet. I think carpet is definitely a good option in places like bedrooms.
Yeah. Especially for someone that's had wood floor in his bedrooms for a long time. It is just a totally different vibe in your bedroom, and you need to put like a big area rug down to make it not seem echoey. Like there's a lot of stuff you need to do. I'll always have carpet in my bedrooms. If I had
Well,
kids, I don't know if I would do white carpet though.
um, if you remember too, the house that you sold of mine, I had the bright idea of doing this. I did LVP throughout the whole entire thing, thinking like, oh my God, this is going to be the best. And then didn't think about that I had a crawl space and how cold that was going to be in the wintertime. So it's like that, that was rough. Like even wearing socks, you're like, oh my God, it's like a draft's coming up underneath me.
All right, so let's talk about you do everything at your shop. So you do install, you sell the flooring, you do deliveries and everything like that. If you were to be buying something yourself, where would you be looking to spend the bigger bucks, and then where do you think that there's a chance for people to try to save money?
Um, So I guess the where to spend, where to save is, that kind of can go in some different directions. And a lot of it's going to depend on what you really like, what's your future looking like. So if it's something you're like, hey, I'm going to move out of this house in 3 years and, just want it to look nice. Like I'm not going to tell you to go buy an 8 millimeter LVP, but if it is something you're like, hey, longevity wise, this is what I want to hold up for a long time, I'm going to push you towards that higher quality product. When it comes to installation, and a lot of places are like this. It's not just me, but a lot of places do, like, we'll say like an a la carte, right? So when I go out to quote a job, I itemize everything out and say, hey, if we're coming in and installing the floor, we're doing the demo, we're doing the trim work, we're moving furniture, all of that is itemized out. And, some customers love that. They're like, hey, you know what? Turnkey service, take care of business. I don't want to touch anything. And then there are some customers, they'll be like, hey, you know what? Me and the wife, we're going to tear out the carpet. We're going to get the furniture out of there for you. We're going to do this and that. And that's something that truly you don't think about, but can save you a ton of money.
Yeah.
Um, I would say where to spend money. Again, going back to floor prep, I would make sure you do not skimp on that. It's not the cheapest thing in the world. But if you are looking for longevity, I would say spending the money to make sure the floor is prepped right before laying. I mean, not even just LVP, any floor that you can think of. It's always good to spend on the floor prep. I'm not going to take too many shots at some of the other stores around the area or the big box stores, but more times than not, it seems like the LVP, most of them already come with the padding pre-attached on the back. For some reason, a lot of stores push a second additional padding that, probably has great margin to it, I'm assuming, which is why they push it a lot. But I would highly go against ever double padding in LVP or laminate LVP, just because the more thickness you have of that padding, the more it's going to compress. So even if you prep your subfloor very well, if you get into a thinner like 4.5 or 5 millimeter LVP, I have seen where the floor is as flat as it should be, and just because of so much compression over time, those joints want to separate themselves loose. So that is
That
something
normally
to it.
happen in the high traffic areas, and then it kind of just starts. Yeah.
Exactly right. So if you are ever at a store and they're trying to sell you an additional padding underneath, I would steer clear of that option. Not saying don't buy the material from them. That is just something that I would not spend the additional money on, because also when you double pad that product, if you talk about the thermal insulation and the noise reduction properties, when you double pad that, it actually starts to reduce so if it has a, I don't want to get nerdy, but if it has an IIC rating of 67, if you double pad that, you're not truly going to get the 67. It's going to cut that decimal percentage down.
Is that double padding? Does that lead to kind of that feeling when you're walking on it that it feels like it's not like it's kind of like floating, like you can feel that give too?
Sure. Yeah, that kind of compression under your feet. And that also kind of goes back to the thickness of the floor. Like when you get to like the really thick stuff, like if I gave you a sample of an 8 millimeter versus a 5, you would literally be like, holy crap, this is like night and day difference. So that thicker stuff, probably not as much. But definitely that thinner stuff, if you get too much padding and too much compression, absolutely you're going to feel that.
Yeah. Um, just prepping people for looking to start that project of replacing flooring. What are some hidden costs that come up that people don't normally think about and they should be prepared for?
Um, so kind of going back to that a la carte conversation. So like when people think about redoing their floor more times than not, and to no fault of their own, because why would you think about it? People think about, okay, what is the square footage price of the flooring and what is the square footage price of basic install? And what basic install means is we come in, we lay the floor, we get out. What they're not thinking about is what needs to be demoed, what furniture needs to be moved, are there appliances? Another, probably one of the biggest ones is trim. So, like if you have carpet in there, you probably just have baseboard. Are you wanting to remove and replace those baseboards, remove and restore those baseboards, or put shoe mold down? Like that's usually something people aren't thinking about. Oh, what am I going to do along the trim of my walls? They just think, hey, just put the floor in. Another big one, which this one's tough, is going back to floor prep. And I know I just keep talking about it, but floor prep is also very tough because a lot of times you're not going to know the extent of what needs to be done until that existing floor comes out. And especially with carpet, that is one of those products that just can hide imperfections so well. So there'll be times where you walk on it, you think everything feels fine. You tear it up and you notice that there's a bunch of lows or a bunch of high spots, or maybe a combination of both on that floor, to where it's like, oh crap, now I need to level or grind down these high spots to, make this right. So typically what I'll do, like when I go out to measure, it is tough with carpet, a little bit easier with existing hard surface because you can kind of see some of the imperfections. I always put some contingency on there of a couple of bags of leveler, maybe an hour of grinding. That way, if we use it, great. If we don't, we take it off at the end for your final bill, and you don't have to worry about it. But that way, it's not such a hidden cost that I'm coming to you in the middle of the job saying, "Hey, man, I need another $300 from you to take care of this."
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so those are just multiple things to think of: is demo. What are you doing with the trim? If you have an older house, I hate to say it, just houses settle. It just happens. Unfortunately, it just you have to deal with it. If you have an older house, you're probably going to have some sort of prep that you need to kind of figure in, which can get tricky. And then furniture, things like that. Hey, what are we going to do with this? Because pretty much everywhere, whether they charge for it directly or they just add it into a square footage price, they're going to charge for moving your furniture as well.
Yeah. I do want to shout out before we get into these rapid fire questions. Zach has been watching and leaving tons of great comments. He said he loves the thicker layer and he loves both of us. So,
Shout out to Zach, actually. So not only did he get me started in all this, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Zach Miller. Also, just bought flooring from me, the thicker wear layer, the thicker stuff, literally a month ago, and did his whole main floor in it, and it looks phenomenal. So
and
best in the Midwest.
he put it over his hardwood.
And again, don't need to get in the weeds. That is another benefit of LVP is if you have a product that is fastened down, whether it's nailed down, glued down, and it's in decent shape, the LVP can go right over top of that.
Yeah.
And to talk about LVP popularity, and I know this is getting on a side tangent, we talked a lot about sanding and finishing with like the engineered and the solid hardwoods. The problem with sand and finish is, I hate to say it, it's a dying art. Not as many people do it. And the cost of the materials like the poly and the stain to do it, like typically, and I'm not going to shout out costs of because everyone's different, but like I've seen between $5 to $10 per square foot, depending on what you want to do and what type of finish you have, that it's going to cost you to sand and finish your floors. And the downside of that too is everything has to be out and you cannot be on your floors for multiple days, which is very tough for most families. Whereas the LVP, you can lay right over top of it and it actually costs you less money. You can preserve that hardwood if you want for a later date. So it's kind of a win-win in that scenario too.
Sweet. Let's get into. We already answered this one. You're a fan of carpet in bedrooms.
Yes.
If you were to put carpet in anywhere, you're putting it in your bedrooms, and then if you have stairs, you're putting it on your stairs. Correct?
Uh, so
Did you put hardwood on your stairs?
I'm going to.
I'm gonna fall down your stairs.
No, well,
Okay.
no. So so the thing is with the stairs, typically if you get like the full treads and risers, they're super slick. I actually bend the material in house, so the LVP has like a very good, we'll say, grip and slip resistant layer on it. So I actually bend the material out of the LVP, so like when you're walking on it, it's like walking on a floor. It's not like the super slick retrofit style treads that you buy that you get at the stores. So I'm going to do it eventually. Yes. I don't know how my dogs are going to like it, but they're going to figure it out, or they're going to have an ACL. I don't know. But I would say most people do carpet on the stairs, and mostly because of the cost. Because doing stairs is expensive and hard surface. I think it looks phenomenal, though. I love the look of hardwood stairs, or even hard surface stairs. But more times than not, people are going to put carpet on the stairs just due to cost.
Yeah. Okay. This is gonna be. I'm gonna ask you this. In the world in the future, where your kids have moved out, are you going hardwood or are you going LVP?
Are my dogs dead?
I don't know.
They have a very short shelf life because they identify as horses. So, uh,
I guess the better question would be: is when they pass away, are you planning on getting more dogs?
That's up to the wife. You know what I mean, homie? I don't know. So hardwood versus LVP. Personally, like the look, like a pristine hardwood floor, like you cannot beat the look of it. But for actually living life and everyday, wear and tear, LVP.
Okay. I'm a bet that you're going to say this depends, but in general, if the rest of the room is built around it, do you like the look of a lighter floor or a dark floor?
Light every time.
Yeah. Why so?
So dark floors, two things. Dark floors, number one, very hard to keep clean. So like a lot of people like and they look good. They look great. I do like the look of a dark floor, but very tough to keep clean. Even when you do clean it with solutions, for some reason, the dark floors leave like a little haze on there that's very hard to get rid of. Also, when you have a dark floor, it tends to shrink the room up a little bit. Whereas when you have that lighter and brighter, it appears bigger. Um, so I would say right now the trend is light wide plank. Like I swear to God, 80% of the people that come in here want a lighter floor and they like the wider 9-inch plank.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay. We haven't talked about this enough, but your store does sell cabinets. So
Yes,
people
we
are
do.
aware. Really, really high
Yep.
quality cabinets at a really, really good price.
Yep.
Cabinets, though, white cabinets or stained wood?
Stained wood or painted wood cabinets. The white cabinets, still the best seller by far that I have, like the white shakers and some of the other variables of that. I just think white has been done to death, and there's so many better and cooler options out there that they have now. Like I have over 40 options of cabinet colors to choose from and door styles. 10 of them are white, and the other 30, like I always try to push that. But it always seems like people like I work with a lot of real estate investors, so they're pretty much just like, hey, whatever's trendy and it's going to sell or do whatever. But I really like the look of either the real wood, stained or natural, or like a painted, you know,
Darker. Yeah.
dark, whatever. I For some reason I'm super into the navy look. I know that's probably going to go out of style soon, but the navy with the gold handles, white countertop, love it.
Gold hardware has become more and more popular. I'm interested to see home shows next month, and I am interested to see what all of them are doing with their kitchens because it's finally starting to trend away from the white, white, white. And then I think if we have a few more years of the homes that are in the higher 600s or above that, if we have a few more years of them not doing white, not doing builder gray, and making some more interesting choices, I'm kind of interested to see if the investors, the flippers, start doing something different. Because you've seen it, I've seen it. It's always white cabinets, white countertops, gray paint, white trim. It's always the same.
Yep. Which actually, what's been besides the white, which, like I said, still the most popular, but what's actually become very popular too is like a light, just natural wood color. So, like, I have one that's called a slim white oak shaker. That for some reason that one has been like for more homeowners than real estate investors. Like that light wood has also been super popular. So, I think you'll probably see a lot of that at the home show with the gold. It seems like that's kind of been the trend or what most people are seeing. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to hear back too from you on that. And then what are they putting in there flooring wise? Because usually those home shows, like they're usually $1 million houses, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah, it'll be million will probably be the lowest price point this year. I know that that
Yeah.
was the case last year. Um, Honestly, last year I didn't pay a ton of attention to what they were doing for their hard surface. I feel like roughly 50% of them were real hardwood. But yeah, we'll see. I know the big trend was like that forest green accent color and then gold fixtures. I mean, it was gold fixtures everywhere.
Yep.
Um, so we'll see if people are still kind of doing that type of stuff. But natural colors is all. No one's doing like anything. You don't see any like baby blue anymore. You don't see any pinks unless it's like designed to be a girl's room or something like that. You don't see anything. It's like all your navies, your dark greens,
Yep.
some sort of brown. Sometimes you see that too. But the dark wood cabinets, that look has been coming back a lot too,
Yeah.
which gets me excited because that means we're getting away from white trim too. And then even the painted trim, I've been noticing builders doing different colors than just a
Yep.
white trim. Like a lot of the Drake ones that they've been doing recently, they've been doing like they've been going back to a builder white paint, but they've been doing like a gray painted trim, which I think looks really, really sharp and it's
Yep.
different. Um, I don't even know if you're going to have an answer for this, but what's one flooring choice people should stop making?
So I mean, I think the answers I have, I feel like it's kind of already happening. I mean, linoleum is just the worst thing in the world. I'm so sorry if you have it. My old house had it. I got rid of it. But I mean that's dying pretty fast. I mean, you can barely find that anymore. But in my opinion, like there's always a pro and a con to whatever decision you make, right? I think that's a lot up to the customer and what their situation is and what their house is. So there's not a ton of things that people are doing right now where I'm like, God, I just wish they'd stop it. I mean, linoleum is probably about it. Everything else, yeah,
You did point out one thing during one of your answers that I do want to talk to people about. And I see this a lot with people flipping. If you're gonna redo a flooring in an old house and you're not prepared to make the adjustment that Landon is talking about with floor prep, you should really, unless it's a room that needs a hard surface flooring, you should really consider just putting carpet in there.
and to be honest with you, like there's times, and like I try to be as transparent as possible with people. Like there are times where like even with carpet already existing down, like that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and someone's on a fixed budget. Like I will talk them into trying to do carpet again. Now, if they don't want to do it, like the problem is like I can't, like for liability purposes, like I can't do anything wrong. So if they're like, oh, I still want LVP, just lay it. Like it's one of those, hey, sorry, maybe somebody else will do it for you incorrectly, but I can't. Um, but like I will steer them back towards carpet just because it'll look good, it'll be fine, and especially if you're in that scenario of, oh, I'm just selling it or I'm just doing this, like that makes the most sense. But you are right, like flippers and remodelers, like no shade, I understand why you do it, but they are notorious for just, all right, let's slap it down, make it look good, get some photos, get some people in here, let's get it sold.
And you could just like it is because you like you said you can look at a room that's carpeted and it looks level and
Yep.
like you don't as you're walking on it you don't notice the imperfections, but the second you put some sort of hard surface on there it all just shows up out of nowhere and you
Yeah.
can tell how unlevel the floor is. It makes the LVP like do that little wobble because it's floating like and it's just crazy. Like
Well, and there's times, I mean, there are times where you stand on the carpet, like, and you can feel, like, in the basement, oh, I feel a crack here, or I feel this, or I feel that. So it's not like it's completely numb, but like, you would be surprised when we tear up carpet what people will do. Like in the low spots, they'll double pad it, or I've seen cardboard where they ramp it up somewhere so you don't notice it. So that's just one of those ones that does hide that imperfection pretty well. But you are correct. I mean, I am going to talk about floor prep every time I can just to make sure, like, because my goal at the end of the day is like when we lay this floor, like I don't want you to give me any callbacks, and I want it to last you as long as possible.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's just the older the house gets, the more it's not square, the more things have settled, and it's just it becomes harder and harder to work around. So it's just something to be cautious of. If you're just looking to replace the flooring because you want something new, I if you want to ease your mind a little bit, I would do carpet.
yep, I agree.
Yeah.
I
So
agree.
Landon, buddy, I appreciate you being on. I am going to tag Landon's Facebook page in all of these videos. So if you want more information, he's posting great content all the time on his page about his product and then some of the stuff that we talked about just learning the differences between all of these flooring. And then as always too, like he on his Facebook, he has his hours posted. But if you just can't make it in during his hours, he also schedules private appointments where you can come in and tour the place with him and you can talk about what kind of project you're looking for. And depending on how Landon is feeling about me on the day, if you mention that you know me, he might get you kind of a deal. So,
I think we can make that work out for sure. Anybody that's a friend of Thomas is a friend of mine. I've always said that,
yeah,
except for a few rare circumstances that we're not going to talk about. I mean, he's good people. So, but no, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the time. Appreciate you having me on.
sweet. Thank you, everyone that was watching. We got quite a few viewers this whole time, and have a great day.
Take care.